Welcome back to the Playback Podcast. Today's conversation, we're going to throw back to a panel session we had during NAB around streaming analytics in the age of AI. This was hosted by our co-host, Exito's VP of North America, Mrugesh Desai. This was a discussion around some of the insights Mrugesh collected in his recent report, also around the key themes of the discussion. He pulled together thought leaders from around the industry for a super fun and insightful convo. Before I pass it off to him, I just want to let you know that this was during the conference, so we ran into some audio issues, meaning the quality is not 100%. I do apologize for the inconvenience, but the conversation is truly top tier, so I hope you'll give it a listen. Without further ado, I'll pass it off to Mrugesh.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. We are hosting this panel at the Exito booth at NAB around streaming analytics in the age of AI and how we can move from data to decisions. A bit of a backdrop to this panel was a recent research study I did with Professor Serguei Netessine at the Wharton School, where we polled 25 streaming executives across 18 streaming services on what's the current state of the analytics industry today within media and entertainment. How are people actually leveraging analytics to the benefit of increasing their audiences, preventing churn, and most importantly and most excitingly, and what I want to discuss with everyone today, is how AI can actually be applied to furthering the use and application of analytics in a much more robust and useful way in our industry. So I am joined by a few panelists today, and I'm very excited for them to introduce themselves. Kirby, would you like to start?
Sure, I'm Kirby Grines. I'm founder of two things, 4320, which is a marketing company, and then Streaming Wars, which is an industry publication. Yeah, that's it.
My name is David Guinan. I created a SVOD platform called Cowboy Channel Plus that recently sold in November to a company called Teton Ridge, and I'm currently seeing if I can do the same darn thing for table tennis.
Okay, my name is Jesús Herrero. I'm one of the co-founders of Jump Data Driven, now Jump AI Technologies. We just changed the name just because we are moving to AI and new Gen AI products, and well, nice to be here. Thank you for the invitation, Wes.
Thanks for having all of you today. I also wanted to point out, Kirby is an ex-competitor, David is an ex-customer, and Jesus is both an ex-competitor and a current partner. So exciting to have all of you. We've competed, we've partnered, we've done a lot of exciting things in the industry together over the last decade. So couldn't be thrilled to have you all here today. So I'll jump right into the first discussion points. One of the things that came out of the study was around the limited adoption of predictive analytics. In fact, from the respondents who provided feedback to the survey, only 27% said that there was a strong predictive analytics offering in the market today, whether it was homegrown, whether it was third party, whether it was stitched together outside of the industry and sort of tethered in. Jesus, for someone who's sort of focused in the recommendation space and has had a lot of experience working on predictive analytics, why do you think the state of the industry is what it is today? And where do you think the gaps come from?
Well, predictive analytics is quite wide. So we try to focus on churn prevention because we tried time series predictive analytics, which basically was predicting KPIs. That was not really accurate. We used to do machine learning, but there's change in the market, new trends, things like that you cannot predict. So we focus on predicting churn based on certain variables that the users are when they stream, that you can monitor, let's say. So that kind of predictive analytics was the one that we thought could make a difference for the business of our clients. So in that sense, we had some clients doing this kind of prediction who was going to churn or disengage from the service at some point, and you can take actions before that happens. And that was kind of the idea of selling this to the market. Of course, there's a lot of things to be done, not only from the analytics perspective, but from the client's perspective. Now, David will give his opinion because he was one of our clients. But basically, we need to do a lot of actions with that prediction. I mean, these people is going to churn. What do we do with that? What do we do with this data? Are we going to do promotions, vouchers, new content, new personalization, things like that? So that was the approach. We were quite successful with that churn prevention, but not with the other time series KPIs prevention.
Yeah, and David does have, I think, a very interesting perspective coming from building a sports service, a digital sports service from the ground, And you've probably seen, the evolution of analytics in our industry, but specifically with sports where there's seasonality, where live games influence a lot of user behavior. Could you sort of speak to the state of analytics in sport today, and why why you think the evolution hasn't happened at the speed we've wanted?
It's a complicated question, but sure. The current state is horrible. I mean, it's just horrible. We started Cowboy Channel with a product called OTT Flow, you guys, Kling, and Bright Cove. And it actually it was okay, but we had nothing. We had 0 subscribers. We went to 35,000 fairly quickly. We then diversified our tech stack by making each part of the stack severable. When you do that, it gives you more control, but you have to tie it all together with analytics. And it was a massive pain in the butt. I mean, I did everything from, think of it from this perspective. If you are doing performance marketing, you are in Google's territory. You're setting up a custom dashboard, whether it's in Looker or whatever you want to do. If you're getting user behavior, you're getting it either from your OVP or from a company like Aceto, and none of the data matches. So then you have your entitlement data on top of that. We actually used this guy to tie it all together, and it was an incredible solution at the time. It at least gave me, how do I describe it? It felt like sonar on a submarine. Like I had something. It wasn't perfect, but I had something. Ultimately, though, from a product perspective, and where I think there's a massive issue, is I don't want graphs. I get bombarded with questions from many people in many different departments, and I don't know SQL, nor do I want to learn SQL. And I would have to call Chema, call one of my engineers, and wait 2 days to get a response. And I've been screaming this to anyone that will listen: take all of my data and put it beneath a GPT so I can just ask it the questions. In fact, I do that now. I take a CSV, I load it into GPT, and I ask it questions. I just don't know why that hasn't happened earlier.
Yeah, and I think that's certainly a topic I want to come to in the panel, right? With the GPT models, with prompt engineers now available, the ability to actually create data visualizations based on unique prompts that service a specific insight when you need it, I think is where we need to evolve to. Kirby, you come from a background that is not too dissimilar from me, right? We've been building apps for a long period of time before you transitioned over to 4320. And one of the things I would often see with customers is they might deride the use of the analytics tools out there. But in fact, I think the problem usually surfaces much earlier in the process when they're actually designing the requirements around telemetry. Right? Like, what analytics should I actually capture? Right? And why have I defined that list of KPIs? Right? Am I really thinking about using the insight gleaned from those analytics to eventually drive decision making in my roadmap, whether it's from a backend perspective or user experience perspective? Do you sort of agree, I guess, with that observation? Do you think the issue with analytics is actually starting from the source? And of course, there's ways of improving the tools, improving the ability to leverage AI. But if we don't get it right at the source and the data is bad to begin with, or you're just collecting the wrong insights, you're obviously not going to lead to sort of favorable outcomes in terms of an analysis.
Was that like 200 questions?
It was almost 200 questions.
All right, that's good. That's good. So to address that, but also riff on what you're saying. I mean, you're talking about like a world where there was once multiple dashboards. That's I won't be the first to curse. That's a mess.
Yeah. And none of them sync up.
And that's a big problem. But beyond that, in my experience, because for a brief period, I thought it'd be great to kind of dive in directly with media companies post float left, and I realized it's a nightmare. And that's what I want to talk about. It's not just multiple dashboards, but even if you can consolidate all your analytics data into one platform, one dashboard, it's broken. It's a broken organization. You have silos across these media organizations, and a lot of times they're chasing different success metrics, different KPIs. There is zero North Star. What might be content that performed well it's going to be different from you to you to you to you. Nobody's aligned on the same thing. So what an analytics dashboard would tell me is going to be completely different based on the goals I'm looking for. And obviously multiple dashboards a problem, but I think inside of these companies, how we assess success breaks the whole damn thing I started.
Can I jump in real quick? I mean, I'm not going to name names, but an entitlement company basically in their dashboard assumed we wanted to give out a free trial. We don't. We have no free trial. You want rodeo? You sign up. I mean, zero free trial. So their entire model was broken and not appropriate for us. So I don't care if somebody does a free trial and then, you know, whatever the return rate is, because we just don't do that. And what I've found is there's a tendency to boil the ocean, give people pretty graphs, but ultimately I care about like 5 or 6 KPIs. And the interesting thing is sometimes you find them out during the process, and ultimately things like pricing structure matter way more. I mean, I can give you more examples, but I want to pass the mic to my buddy over here.
The first challenge we found when we created a company, an analytics company, was what you mentioned. First of all, the definition of the most basic KPIs in the industry, a playback and a subscriber. So everybody should agree what that is. I mean, that's like a starting point. So we went to the clients, and every one of them have a different definition for that. No, for me a playback is 10 seconds. No, it's 1 second. No, if it's not a minute, it's not a playback. No, for me a subscriber, it has 3 packages. No, 2 packages. So it was a nightmare, only the main basic KPI. So imagine going further along the line with most complex KPIs like lifetime value, customer lifetime value, things like that. So we had a nightmare just defining what was a KPI. And then, of course, you have to analyze those KPIs and which are the goals that you want to reach. So that was kind of the biggest challenge, agreeing upon first what is this kind of KPI. The first challenge with them was like putting all the dashboards together and then stating whether those playbacks were right or not. And the first thing that we found out is they were not. Even the subscribers were not. So we had to spend a lot of time matching what he was expecting from the data perspective.
But then even more complicated, and again, I appreciate the effort, but we had one 24/7 live stream, but sometimes we would do 9 concurrent live rodeos. And to differentiate those from your OVP, we created a tremendous amount of challenge. And then you have sales and marketing torturing you for the information, and that's the problem. Getting people the data they want quick, and it's never what you expect people to want. It's always something random, and the time it takes to get that data is problematic.
No. So on the dashboarding topic, and now to delve right into AI, right? So you've been on the side of the fence where you need to look at these analytics, right? And you just talked about the idea of leveraging a voice-based prompt, sort of give you the insights in the moment you need it, and for the stakeholder you need it for, and probably visualized in the right way. I think you're really great in terms of giving this perspective, but what would be your utopian vision of what that workflow would look like, right? So as a product owner, as a chief digital officer, as a leader of a sports digital service, right? Like what would that workflow look like to you?
Look, can I give you an example first before I answer that question? I was doing a performance marketing campaign. My CAC was $35. A monthly subscriber was $9.99. So I immediately say, is this worth it? It might not be. So then call him up and find out how long a monthly churns out. And what I found is 75% of my monthlies upgraded to an annual package. And that became my war in baseball, my number one metric, because it means they tried the channel, tried it enough that they upgraded. But we also gamed pricing. The NFR, the main event in the world of rodeo, was only available with an annual package, which forced a pathway to annual, which kept our churn down to under 3%. So it's something I've been really worried about. Now, the utopian ideal. Graphs are fine, but give me a dashboard that's customizable with the 5 or 6 KPIs I actually care about, which is how many subscribers do I have every given second, not every day, every second. Where are they from and what are they watching? And then return on ad spend, ARPU, and is it ARPU? RRP?
Yeah, ARPU.
Oh,
We'll go with ARPU.
I know, but even saying like CAC, I find kind of creepy. I always like, cost per acquisition. Yeah, just anyway. Those are the key numbers. But ultimately, where I get frustrated is these are the metrics I care about as a product owner. But the owners of the company, the sales force, the marketing people come to me. There's no way of training them to use this. I tried. I gave them access to every platform, and they don't care. They want an answer. And so I need to ask it a question like I'm them and be able to get a report and generate that quickly. So yeah, a SQL database with my entitlement info, my user locations, behavior, what they're consuming, how they're consuming it, under a GPT is ideal.
And if you had that, the people that you don't need to train or translate, like they have the same access and they'll get the KPIs and whatever they're trying to follow.
I mean, but I use it. I've been using it for 2 years. Like my late boss was an interesting character, and explaining SSAI advertising to him was impossible. So I asked ChatGPT. It simplified it down for a technologically unsophisticated audience, and it was incredibly effective for that.
Well, NAB, if you're listening, you just got a product requirements document of what next to build for the industry. There you go. So one of the things I also investigated as part of the research was the types of analytics being collected. Right? So I asked about app behavior, content consumption, quality of service, onboarding journey, and demographic and preferences. Interestingly enough, there seemed to be a very poor representation of quality of service being collected in the industry. And I'm curious to just your thoughts on why. Right? I mean, is it just
quality of service? I mean,
so video performance, right?
Okay.
Application performance, right? Is my Roku application firing up today on a certain firmware and a certain device model or not? My personal theory is it just has come down to prioritization, right? So if you've got QC people, and oftentimes quality is still being done in a very manual way, they're focusing on eyeballs on screens and probably on very core audiences and the platforms that drive it. So probably an area that's been neglected for that reason. But just curious on opinions on why QoS might be a little bit underserved from an analytics representation and what can be done to sort of improve that.
Well, I can give you my opinion on that because it didn't used to be the case. I mean, back, I don't know, probably 3-4 years ago, quality of service was key and everybody was monitoring that. And the big guys in the industry, Conviva, the world, they used to be really, really huge. And you needed to have a really compelling application and let's say monitoring the service. My feeling is that networks and everything improved so much and the brands that are there now are much better, let's say, in the quality, they already sophisticated. So now it became a little bit less relevant and more the business side of things. So they are more...
I don't care about it, to be honest. That is the job of my OVP. And I have a customer service department, and I get every email, or got every email that people would send in. And if there was a problem, I would see it, and I would call whoever my OVP was. But that's for me, it's like monitoring electricity. I mean, I view it as a service, a reason. Exactly. That's not my job to monitor.
So does that come with implicit trust, right? And do you think
trust
that
but verify?
Exactly.
Carry a big stick.
And that's what I'm sort of getting at. I think the verify aspect is probably where innovation can come in play. But great perspective.
It's important to know what your nines are after an event. I mean, like that, and to do a lot of planning and quality of service testing before a massive event. But ultimately, I had to say this without sounding either neglectful or arrogant. I don't view that as my job. I view it as incredibly critical to my job, but I feel like that is the responsibility of the vendor that I hire. Yeah, precisely.
Absolutely.
And was that the same chart where cross-device behavior wasn't really identified as a priority? The one we were
different question, but that was actually another great observation that came through the survey.
When I read that, my question is, I'd love to know why, because that sounds ridiculous to me. Yeah. That you would neglect that, and is it a technical limitation, or can't be oversight, because the thing is we obviously live across all these devices, all these platforms, and to be able to track that, you can really personalize based on the contextual mood, just my digital journey, my user journey across all these devices and platforms that I use, or within a given platform.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a very rational theory that could be a technical reason why cross-device analytics is not being implemented or tracked properly. For me, I think it comes from the source again, right? So if you didn't specify in your spec that cross-device analytics should be a priority, and then you're relying on both your video workflow and your app vendors to sort of implement that, and you have some high-level perspective on what that should look like, the results will be according to the spec. But sort of speaking about another insight that to me was caught me a little bit off guard, right, was around real-time analytics, right? And maybe this comes down to definition, but perhaps David, you've got a perspective on this. Did you have issues with real-time analytics collection, especially during live events? Was it latency? Was it accuracy? Was it all of the above? What did you experience?
So during the Wrangler NFR, for one stressful, glorious day, the Cowboy Channel was in the top 5 highest grossing apps on iTunes. Again, for like really a 45-minute period, we're as big as any other sport out there. And it's incredible. That's when all hell typically breaks loose. I mean, we've had many, many problems. So we're not only looking at requests per minute, requests per second, looking at thresholds in which things can really go wrong, where a database can get pegged. And that part's all right. I mean, that you have access to if you're on AWS or creating your own middleware. I mean, but also knowing your revenue, knowing how many subscribers are coming in at a minute-by-minute level is incredibly important, because you're also pulling the levers of performance marketing at the same time. And performance marketing is its own brain. It functions, in my opinion, like electricity. It's if your brand reach isn't big enough, then your PPC, you don't have enough search requests. So it's a bit of a dance with two levers, that knowing really minute by minute how many subscribers are coming in during a marquee event is mission critical to how much you're going to spend the next day, how much you're going to spend then.
Jesús, any thoughts?
Yeah. Real-time analytics for us has been kind of a discussion all the time with the clients, and the problem is the following. I mean, for me, real-time analytics only applies, and in the case that you're meaning for business, what David is saying for marketing, performance marketing, but it applies a lot for quality of service. So for quality of service, you need real-time analytics. So if that live event has a problem, you need to detect in that second, not 1 day later. So real-time analytics for me, it's really relevant for quality of service or for performance marketing. The thing is that to implement that is really expensive. Collect real-time data, because what is real-time? If we are talking about seconds, that you have to be monitoring and cloud consumption and data consumption in real-time basis, and the architecture has to be real-time. That is really expensive. Normally companies want real-time data, but they're not willing to pay real-time money.
But then you have another dashboard. If you use Artillery or Datadog, another dashboard. I mean, at the NFR, Ken, who's wandering around here, is my main engineer. We would set up like 6 monitors in our hotel room for all of this, and it
comes to the business case. Yeah. What are you going to use the real-time analytics for?
Yeah. This wasn't an interesting insight. I mean, it just validated what I already knew, and I think you've all seen this.
Isn't that the purpose of a study?
Exactly. Exactly. Validation is important, right? I mean, but it's surprising when you sort of know a truth from 10 years ago and it's still the same truth. A little part of you dies of the evolution that could have happened.
Yeah.
But you think of your average OTT service and the number of analytics tools that they're leveraging, right? And all fantastic tools, right? So Google Analytics or Jump, Conviva, etc. We all know on this table several OTT services that have 7+ analytics tools extracting the data, analyzing the data. Some of those are doing different things in terms of what analytics they're analyzing. Some are actually completely doing the same thing. Why have OTT services needed this? Is it a redundancy reason? Is it again trust and verify? So hey, I can't have one analytics vendor because I can't trust that data. And how do we solve this? It's a big question, loaded question.
Yeah, it's a big question. If you, I think we founded the company to solve that pain, to become the unified source of truth of analytics, and it's not having so many dashboards, but also integrating the data into one place. We all call it the unique source of truth because that is a big problem, not the dashboard. The dashboard it's a commodity. The big problem is the lake where you have the data. And we thought we could do it, but at the end is what you say: the trust in Google, the trust in other tools. You have Conviva, but so you have so many companies pushing the analytics that it became a nightmare to try to be the unique source of truth. And so it's not happening. And also a lot of companies are building their own analytics with Tableau, with Power BI. So it's I think analytics is really personal. It becomes really personal to who is using it. Some people, they like to use many sources. Some people like David, they want to ask a question and have an answer, but a precise answer. So it depends on the profile of who's using analytics.
There's also a tendency where people just give you pretty graphs, and then you click on the graph and you can't drill down deeper. And it's just, I don't care about graphs. I care about getting the answers that I want. And so there's kind of a dual awful tendency to both boil the ocean, where it's just too much data that I don't really care about, versus presenting data that looks pretty that I also don't care about.
But ultimately, if you had a graph that says exactly what you're looking for, would be great, right? So insert your ChatGPT thing, like forget the graphs. Let's start with the prompt of what I'm looking for, and then assemble
I
the graph.
do that. Give me the graph afterwards, because
exactly.
marketing people like graphs. Data visualization is incredibly valuable because it's a way of communicating complexity to others.
But build the charts based on what you're asking for, rather than let me try to dissect what this all means.
Exactly.
So the overwhelming feedback in terms of what needs to be improved in the industry from the report was around personalization, right? And using analytics to actually impact personalization. Jesus, you founded a company that is sort of based on this, right? Talk us through the state of the tools today, not just yours, but just the market in general, and kind of how do you think we can evolve this to actually improve personalization and impact in the industry?
I think this is a great point, because at the end, as I mentioned, we started with analytics. We understood that analytics were the best use of analytics was to better personalize the users and then keep them engaged and bring them to your platform. So that we focus on discovery and personalization. And then once there, now we found out that with AI technologies, with this Gen AI, with not only ChatGPT, but also Gemini and all the models that are fighting between them, they're becoming better and better every day. Leveraging all those technologies, now we can really do one-to-one personalization, which is what the industry needs from a long time ago. Which is basically you get into your mobile app and you will see what you like, and just what you like. Okay, and it's not you don't have to navigate all the time, and then also do conversational discovery, which we are investing in.
Yeah, I mean, to also be able to serve bespoke content based on user behavior. Right. I mean, that's the holy grail.
Are we essentially saying the OTT experience needs to evolve to what social media is?
Yeah, it's like TikTok. I mean, imagine getting served a bespoke fast channel based on your behavior.
Can I say this? I mean, you have no choice. You have no choice, I guess, really. Loaded question.
No, you can't.
All right. If you give a mouse a cookie, you guys familiar with the book? If you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to ask for a glass of milk.
Yes.
If I'm the milkman, I just don't want to measure how much milk you drink, but I want to create a habit. I want to get you addicted to that cookie. So I'm going to keep feeding you milk. Yeah. We talk about churn. Churn is important, obviously, but not enough companies are thinking about habits. How do we use personalization? How do we use AI? How do we use all these tools to make these platforms that are content-based? Again, content's important, but regardless of the new drops, the shiny objects, the new things you're investing in, how do we get this product to become a habit that you use?
If to that point, TikTok did that. And I think it was founded 6 years ago. It's double revenue of YouTube now. And it's like, they did that.
Isn't that interesting?
It's a habit. You stay there 1 hour.
Right, where everyone's trying to, in the traditional media world, kind of, let's compete with Netflix. Here comes TikTok. Now TikTok TikTok's becoming the new cable.
But you're seeing that in the discovery process. I mean, shout out to Naveen at QuickPlay. He's actually taking short form and using that as a recommendation input to personalize long form.
Yeah.
I mean, it's genius. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just
it's genius.
but it's so elegant. I mean, it's like TikTok is doing that because it's a promotion to motion system. You do it on short form, you can get that much more data about a user that much faster, and then recommend Seinfeld for them.
Yeah. And I know somewhere there's some legacy media executive sitting in an ivory tower like short form, right? It'll never work. Like,
Are we talking Quibi?
no, but shout out Jeff Katzenberg.
There are a few companies though that are getting it. I mean, last year, no offense, like NPAW, they actually saw. I mean, like a year ago, I was like giving my spiel about the SQL database, the GPT. They had it. It didn't work perfectly, but it was a step in the right direction. It was finally a company is getting it, and I feel like everyone is finally getting it. So I am optimistic about sort of the state of things.
If I can say something, I mean, David was the one that launched the challenge to us last year about a conversational, dashboard, which is basically you ask questions and you get responses. 1 year ago was there, but now it's amazingly crazy how good it is. And then in 3-4 months, it will be better than humans, the responses, better than anything working for you. So we think it's going to be a lot of things, personalization, data, quality of service, customer care. They're going to be assistants. They're going to be people, they're going to be chats that you just ask questions and you receive the answers. And then you can draw it in any means, in a dashboard, in an email, in a whatever, in notes, whatever. But it's going to be that. But the key will be the same. The basic of the data has to be correct because those models are training data, in your data. Because one thing is ChatGPT, but then they have to connect to your lake, and your lake has to be precise. Otherwise, the data that you will get back, it will be wrong.
And that's
You bring up a great point, right? I mean, your data is your intellectual property, and
sometimes.
hopefully most of the time,
Yeah.
you can, and it's a treasure trove. It's very untapped. I like that you brought up that you're optimistic, which is probably a perfect segue to conclude the discussion. I would love a final word from each of you about, not just the state of analytics and how it can evolve, but you've been here for a couple of days at NAB. We all know the last 18 months, 24 months has been challenging for the industry. I'm personally also optimistic generally about the industry and the evolution. But as a final word, how do you think about the next 12 to 24 months for our industry, and hopefully if you've got a specific insight around evolution of analytics and application of AI, please provide that perspective.
I'm going to be really aggressive on this one. I think that everybody in the industry needs to move to Gen AI, to the new, the new paradigm. It's this new paradigm, it's a new world we live in. It's like when the internet came, people say, no, internet is, it's for consulting and data. No, internet changed the world. This is going to change the world. The industry, of course, and all the others. And basically, companies need to find out how they're going to, bring the value with those technologies. That's my opinion.
For me, it's ultimately curation is advertising, but within your product. I mean, how many of us have spent like 10 minutes searching for something on Netflix and it's the same damn titles? And I go to Amazon, same damn titles. Shouldn't it know that I haven't watched that and then just not show it to me and show me something else? And so we all experience this with the different verticals, and a few companies are getting it where Apple and Amazon have combined other things. But ultimately, where I feel this is going, once you have a better sense of what your users are actually consuming and what they want, it's informing really creative decision making about how to actually tailor content and discovery for them. I feel like, again, I'm going to sound a little sanctimonious, I guess, but this is a golden age right now. I feel a few people are starting to see what's possible, but analytics are ultimately, in my opinion, if done right, going to shape the actual content strategy.
The biggest opportunity I see for media companies in these OTT products is still so much of it's content heavy, content led, content driven. There's so much work somewhere in the intersection of product and marketing to be done to create these habit forming platforms. Jesus is right. Gen AI is here, so stop complaining about it and learn how to work with it. Learn how to make yourself better, and let's just leave it with those.
I got one last thing. Think about this like applied to an archive. I mean, archive, the very name archive implies cryptic, hermetic, dusty basement. It's a gold mine, but you have to be able to serve it to people in a fresh new way.
Make it searchable.
Exactly, not even searchable, but if you know the behavior, if you know what people want, it can dynamically find and monetize the content that just
Get from here monetization.
exactly just sitting there. Cut it up. I mean, do mashups of it. I mean, and that's what I mean about how behavior and AI can actually reformat a lot of content out there.
Yeah, I knew I was going to add one more thing, and it's just no, it's good. I had no idea what that third thing was, so like it gave me time to think about it. It's just a message to every media entertainment company. It's like before we think about Gen AI and how it affects analytics and what analytics tools we use, is figure out your KPIs, figure out how to work harmoniously together so you're not competing against each other. Because I've met a lot, I've not met any dummies. I've met smart people at all these companies. Their biggest problem was that they don't talk together and they operate as small business units in a media conglomerate.
Yes.
Like, figure yourselves out first, figure out your North Star, figure out what drives business success for every unit, tackle that, build analytics, use AI around it. That's the key.
Great point,
That's the
great
key.
point.
That
Great
is
point.
it. That is the answer.
One last point, if you have time.
One more thing. Let me
Yeah.
go. There we go.
No.
It's like the DJ Khaled thing, and another one.
No,
There
you
we
made
go.
me think of your third point. So, again, looking at in a sort of a large macro view, like think about sports in general. The top tier sports do three things really, really well. They're good live, they're good on your phone, and they're good on a couch. Each of those platforms have a different device, a different semiotics to them. And that's something incredibly important within a brand. Where is this person consuming it? Serve content specifically tailored to that device. Exactly.
So I think we actually got the final word in. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure hosting you. Thanks for joining. I think
real?
it's conversations like this that take the industry forward, right? We need to have much more open forum discussions to share perspectives between vendors and customers, vendors and partners, competition. This is how we can actually take the industry forward. So again, pleasure hosting you guys. And for those of you who are watching this, please do download the research study. It's available on the Excedo website. And thanks for tuning in.
That's all for this episode. A special thanks to David, Kirby, and Jesus for joining as guests and for providing their unique insights into streaming analytics. If you want to read Mrugesh's report, we have attached a link in the description of the episode. If you have any questions about the episode or just want to reach out, feel free to send an email to playback.podcast@excedo.tv or send me a message on LinkedIn. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.